Welcome, Adam.
Thank you, Tricia. Good to be with you.
Yeah, thanks for being here. I'm with Adam G. Fleming. He is, as far as I know, a fantasy author, but he's going to tell us all about his books today. Adam, jump in and start.
Yeah, well, I'm actually an author of a wide variety of books, but most recently I've completed a series called the Satchel Pong Chronicles, which is steampunk fantasy. And here's the cover of the first of 5 books. All 5 are out. I'm just going to show you the one, but this is the first one, Satchel Pong and the Great Migration. And as you can see, it's got that wonderful steampunk, like airship thing going on. So you kind of have to let people know right on the cover what they're getting. So yeah, but I also have, like, here's another book called Vortex Street, which is travel poems and flash fictions. It's not real big, but that's my first audiobook also. And I incorporated some beat tracks. So my 16-year-old son likes to make electronic dance music. So we use that in between the poems, and it turned out pretty cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's like a halfway ebook, halfway EDM album. So it's kind of a fun crossover.
That is definitely some added content there for your listeners.
Yeah, well, poetry books wouldn't be very long, if it was just the text. So.
And we were talking before, and you said you're recording your own audiobooks. That's amazing.
I am. I just got started with the Vortex Street, just a couple. I think I actually uploaded it on December 15th, which is just over a month ago. So it's brand new to have audiobooks, and I'll be working to get all my books on audio eventually.
Well, congratulations. That's very cool.
Nice.
I have a funny story about that. Somebody referred me to an organization that records books for the blind, and because I'm an author as well. And so they were like, yeah, come down, we'll meet you, we'll see your books. And I took some of my physical books, and they're like, well, you could practice recording and see if you'd be a good person to record your own books. And I was really, really nervous, and it was a romance book, and it was a man listening to me, so I felt really self-conscious. And I was like talking so fast, I made so many mistakes, and they were like, yeah, we'll get back to you about whether we want you to record your books or not. Never heard from them again. So I don't know if I could record my own books, but kudos on that.
Well, I have had a pretty good studio engineer tell me he thought I could do it. So I recorded like one chapter in his professional studio, and he said it's not for everyone, for sure. So I am actually hiring myself out to do that as well. So
very cool.
If there's authors in the audience who don't want to mess with it, I can do it.
Nice. Yes, I think there would be a lot of them. Tell us all about your struggling to pronounce it again, Satchel Pong series?
Satchel Pong. Satchel as in Satchel Paige, the baseball player, and Pong as in ping pong.
Okay.
So how did you about that, right?
Yes, I'd love to learn about that.
Well, so Satchel Pong is a meteorologist in this fantasy world, which is, in his world, it's a government institution or a government job, like a magistrate is what they call him. And he's supposed to give an annual report on what's happening with the weather, but he's kind of been negligent for about 10 years because he's sort of scared because the world is getting hotter, and he doesn't want to say that. Now, I'm not like a campaigner. It's just an interesting what if. I'm not like a global warming, although I do believe that we have global warming. I'm not saying that I don't, but that's not the point. This isn't propaganda. So Satchel Pong has to decide, he starts getting pressure from people around him saying, we know it's getting hotter and you're not giving your reports. And he has to decide if he wants to lead a migration of his people from an island nation. If you think of something like Hawaii, maybe, where they eat sushi and that kind of thing, to another part of the world to see if they can find a place that's safer. So that's sort of the instigating moment in the first book. And as it goes through a 5-book series, there becomes a question of whether or not they'll even be able to travel off world. So I don't want to give too much away, but lots of other characters. I build huge casts of characters, lots of different cultures. They travel all over the place. Almost all my books are about traveling in some way, even if they're nonfiction. There's travel involved. So
I'm guessing you're a travel lover then.
I am. I'm a huge travel lover. Actually, on my other laptop right here, I have a manuscript open called Old Roads, New Friends. I recently walked the Camino de Santiago from Porto, Portugal to Santiago in Spain, like a 200-mile trip
Oh, wow.
in 2 weeks. And one thing that happened, I was sitting with other people who were hiking at dinner one night, and I just raised my glass and said, I want to make a toast. And they're all turned and looked at me, and I said, to old roads and new friends. And that was it, just like this pithy little thing. And they all looked at me and said, that's it, exactly. And so some of them got to Santiago before me and some after and so forth. But one of them who got there before me was waiting at the cathedral where you sort of end your journey. And I found that she had tattooed it on her wrist, Old Roads, New Friends. So I am definitely a traveler, and I love to make friends when I travel. So
very cool. And you said travel off-world. How does that happen in a steampunk world?
Well, yeah, this is the cool thing about steampunk is it like creates, thank you for bringing me back to my book.
Well, I got you off topic, so I had to bring you back. Right?
No, it's all good. I'll probably tell you about some other travel before I'm done. So, yeah, so again, don't want to give too much away, but the cool thing about steampunk is it creates a palette, well, it does have a color palette too, like that sort of daguerreotype look, right? In terms of visuals, but it creates a palette in terms of like what technologies are available and what aren't. But then you get to mix in stuff like alchemy and magic and miracles and, so there's other religions and different things that are going on in here. So that expands your palette out again to say, well, maybe there's a way to take a dirigible, but fly it through space. If the characters are thinking outside the box somehow and use all the different types of magic and technology available to them, maybe they'll be able to travel off world. And I'm not going to say how that goes.
Okay. Yeah, because I guess like it is steampunk fantasy. So you still have that fantastical element that a witch can beam them to another planet and then they would be safe, right?
Yeah, beam me up, Scotty type of idea. And whether or not it's dangerous and whether or not it's healthy and whether or not the other planet that they might be able to go to would be habitable or welcoming or whatever. So there's all kinds of potential dangers, in that kind of stuff, but it was really fun to create. So
it does sound like it's a lot of fun. Who are your main characters?
Well,
Satchel Pong.
Satchel Pong. Yep. Satchel Pong is the main character. The second one is called Satchel Pong and the Search for Emil Ennis. So Emil Ennis is a main character who gets, I don't think this is too much of a big giveaway. At the end of the first book, he gets lost from the main group of migrating people. And so in book 2, they're looking for Satchel Pong. The third one is called Antoinette Jo and the Sky Dwellers. And so if you really love dirigibles, stick with me because you got to wait till the third book to really see what's going on in the skies. And then the fourth book is called Saint Kipstopher and the Miraculous Yarkarma. And the Yarkarma is like a tree. So there's miracles going on with this guy. And then the last one is called The Prophets of Doom and the Leaping Hedgehog. And Leaping Hedgehog is let's say it's the spaceship. So,
okay. Yeah. That makes sense. And you said it's a complete series, right? So you could read the whole thing and
it's all there.
Do you have an ending? The title of the last book is kind of like dark and foreboding. Hopefully not everybody dies.
Hopefully. Look, I've read some China Mieville and I really love the dark, some of the dark steampunk stuff that's out there, but that's not who I am. I don't write, you can probably already tell that I just love to laugh. So it even says like on the back, dystopian steampunk adventure. And there's the dystopia of like, we're living on a world that's burning up, but there's a lot of humor in it. So don't worry, not everyone dies.
Fun. Yeah, I talked to a horror author, and we were talking about her finishing up her series, and she's like, yeah, I'm like, you wrapped up your series, there weren't any characters left? She's like, yeah. I'm like, okay,
All the
well,
characters
we
were
know what
gone.
happened in the
Nothing
end,
left.
I guess.
Yeah, well, I will say that the series is complete, but I left the door open for one of the characters to possibly have a spin-off series. So, and I don't know when I'm going to start writing that, but I think I might. So this series is definitely complete though. And not everyone dies, and there's some funny stuff in there. I really think that it's quite humorous too. So anyway,
Fine.
it's sort of dystopian, but it's funny.
Well, at least you didn't write about a pandemic, because that's what I did in my dystopian book, and it didn't really sell very well in 2020. I have to say, I'm not really sure why. So.
And well, sometimes you just, the funny thing about publishing, and I don't know if this is what happened with Harry Potter too, but sometimes you just hit the right topic or theme at the right time. And there's almost no way to know, because it takes a couple of years to like put something together if it's got any quality to it. I mean, I guess you can bang out a book in a month, that's like 40,000 words, but I just don't know if you can have a whole lot of literary quality to it. Maybe more than, I mean, that's a personal opinion. I don't know. I can't do it. That's how
I couldn't do it either.
I can't do it. It takes me longer than that. And so then you end up like in this space where it's like, well, I've been, writing about this global warming thing since, when did I first draft, the first chapter? Probably back in 2015 or 2016 of the first chapter of the first book. So, over time, probably global warming's become even a hotter topic.
I got that. Yeah.
So I don't know. You just never know, right?
It was eerily.
That sucks about your series, though. I'm sorry to hear that.
Oh yeah, it was eerily foreboding as well, which is kind of freaky. Maybe.
Well, and my biggest concern, I think there's got to be some books about this, is that we have a situation where we're all tired of this thing, but what happens when another virus that's as deadly as Ebola, but as spreadable as COVID hits us, and everybody's like, it's like the old Greek story about the boy who cried wolf.
Right. That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, we already did this thing.
Who
Who cares? And then it's just like, you're dead. So
Evolution, right?
That's my biggest concern, is how we'll react to a pandemic that's 10 times more deadly. And we'll just be like, I'm going to the store anyway, And
Well,
that could be a variant. Like, I don't think it's Omicron. They say it's more spreadable. Anyway, we didn't come here to talk about the pandemic, did we?
No, definitely did not. Sorry, I got off on that tangent.
That's okay.
This is my favorite question to ask authors. And I think I already know it because you've hinted at some of these things, but what do you want your readers to experience or take away from reading your books?
Yeah, with this series, I want people to ask themselves kind of the question, because like the fourth book is called St. Kipstopher and the Miraculous Your Karma. I want people to ask themselves, do I even believe that, because we love to read about magic in the fantasy world, but do I believe a miracle could happen? I want to leave people with this sort of ambiguous, like, how did that happen? I don't explain all the magic. I don't explain all the miracles. They just happen. You just have to trust the author that, yeah, that happened. So now what? And I love to leave things ambiguous, so it gives people kind of the space to think for themselves, like what they think about that kind of stuff,
Neat.
And I want them to laugh.
Yeah, I thought that was going to be part of your answer.
Well, I mean, my kind of life purpose, as I understand it, is that everyone in the world ought to have at least one good friend who can sit and listen to them without judgment. And the way that I think about that in terms of writing books, as a person who just kind of offers friendship wherever I go, is, Groucho Marx said that outside of a dog, a book is a man's best friend. Inside a dog, it's too dark to read. So I hope that people walk away feeling that my book sort of offered them a friendship for a while.
That's a neat idea. I'd never heard that saying, so I like it though.
Groucho Marx is hilarious.
So how did you get into writing?
Well, there was one of my, I've always been an artist. I did ceramics a lot in high school. I've played bass, guitar. I did stone sculpture for a while. And then I had some back issues. And somewhere around 2008 or 2009, I started writing a play for the theater and found a local community theater who was willing to stage it as long as I directed it. So I got a lot of extra work to do. And as I was preparing to stage this play, I decided to expand it into my first novel, which is called White Buffalo Gold. And it's a standalone, it's not a series. And so expanded the storyline, 6 more storylines or something going on. And so that was printed and ready for the premiere of the play back in 2012.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And what genre is that book?
I would say it's literary fiction. It's just like normal fiction. It's set in a small Nebraska town. It's kind of a coming of age story where there's 4 kids graduating from a high school in a town that's pretty much dying. And they're all trying to decide, do I stay with what's familiar here in my small town or do I go out in the wide world? And if so, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? And then in the counterpoint or the contrast to that is one of the characters is working in a nursing home with people who are at the end of life at stage. And so she's having these interesting conversations with the elderly folks. And so it's kind of a comparison contrast sort of theme. I think it's pretty good for a first novel. I'm happy with it still.
Yeah, I like that, seeing getting the perspective of what's really going to be important to you at the end of your life, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And thinking about what's important to me when I'm 19 or 18, and versus and sitting down and talking with people who are 90 and going, well, what's important? Yeah. What's important to them? Or, and there's some mystery involved around a gold mine and stuff like that. So it's got a bunch of stuff in it.
Fun. So tell me about in between that book and this one. You said you have 12 books?
Yeah, so let's see, what else do I have? So there's an author named Justin Fike who fantasy readers might know him from his Far Shore series. I did an interview with somebody a couple of days ago and they were like, oh yeah, Justin. So I worked with Justin on 3 books and we'll have more eventually in the Stetson Jeff adventures. So Stetson Jeff is sort of an action adventure comedy with a Texan who's kind of a cross between Forrest Gump and Chuck Norris.
Interesting combination there.
Yeah, it's got a lot of throwbacks to movies like Crocodile Dundee. It's set in the late 80s, Crocodile Dundee, Karate Kid, Bloodsport, that kind of stuff. And but with a lot of comedy. So for people that are as old as I am, they might remember some of those movies. The kids might not be like, Crocodile Dundee, what's that?
You can get anything online now. That's
I know. If you haven't seen Crocodile Dundee, it's worth a watch. And it's like a time capsule too. It's hilarious. It's been a long time. But anyway, so we wrote 3 books about Stetson Jeff and he travels. The first book is called Beat Down in Bangkok. So he goes to Thailand. The second one is Mayhem in Marrakech. So he's in Morocco. And then the third one is Pandemonium in Paradise, which is a town in Pennsylvania in the Amish country.
I live near there.
Do you? My wife.
No, I used to live near there. Yeah.
Okay. My wife is from Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. So yeah, so we kind of know that area. So in the third book, he's back in the States, but he's in Amish country and Pandemonium in Paradise. So we'll have more. I think we're going to have him go to Belize and where's the 5th one? Spain. So
that sounds like a really fun series. It's a urban fantasy series. Is that right? Or
no, it's not. I wouldn't say it's fantasy. It's
not fantasy.
I'd say, yeah. I mean, this Satchel Pong thing, the 5 books there is the only fantasy
Okay.
thing that I've done, but that does entail almost half of all my books. So
Right. So the Stetson is, you said Stetson Jeff is
that's
like
in Jeff.
Jeff,
So
is
he's
it?
like, he sees himself a little bit like James Bond. So he
Okay.
introduces himself without the comma. He says, my name's Stetson Jeff Stetson.
Oh,
He doesn't say like Bond, James Bond. He
yeah.
says Stetson Jeff Stetson. That's the Forrest Gump aspect of him, you know.
Okay.
So
So is he a detective then?
no, he's actually, we wanted him to have the money to just kind of be able to travel wherever he wanted to. So we decided to just make him a member of the Stetson family that
Oh,
made the Stetson hats. So he's
right. Okay.
a cowboy. He's just a cowboy from a hat company family. That way we could like, oh, if he wants to fly somewhere, it's no problem. They've got money. So
That's funny. When you were talking about that, a little bit of Southern accent came through in that hat.
well, I used to have the hat hanging on the door back here. I do have a cowboy hat, and I have been doing the Stetson Jeff voice a lot in as I'm starting to do the audiobooks. So
Well, maybe
wow,
that's it.
maybe I can do a little bit of the interview for you in Stetson Jeff's voice.
That's so fun. Yeah, I never thought about how many different voices you need until I got my book narrated. And yeah, it's just a fascinating thing to me.
Yeah, I did a little bit of reading out of Winnie the Pooh, so I'd have like a little sample that people would be filmed, just like 10 minutes. So I can do an MP3, and I just love Owl, you know. Well, Rabbit, how are you, Rabbit? This is good to see you. Yeah, whatever. So
Nice. Fun.
it is fun.
Well, it's been great to learn about your books. Tell our listeners and our watchers where they can find you and your books.
Well, my website is Adam G. Fleming, and spell Fleming with one M, .com. That's it, adamgfleming.com. And you can, if you search me on Amazon, you can also find me there with the Adam G. Fleming. Just search. And if there's any of the names of the books, like Satchel Pong and the Great Migration, there's only one of those out there. So if you search that, you can find it. And yeah, people can, I don't mind if your listeners email me. So it's agf@adamgfleming.com. And I do have some packages on my website where they can buy the entire series autographed. I will ship them out. So whatever.
Great. That's a great option for listeners and readers. Well, I appreciate you being here, and it's very cool to learn about your book.
Thank you so much for the interview, Tricia.
You're
I
welcome.
enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.